I got a job working for an educational company that was putting together a new 5th grade curriculum with U.S. government backing that was going to study baboon behavior, hunter-gatherers, teach you about evolution through natural selection, and so on. Teach them a really exciting course. So I was hired, and for the first 2 months, I just sat around, read books, got paid a decent salary, so it was an easy job. One day they call me and they say, "Do you know anything about humans?" By which they meant anthropology, sociology, so on. I said, no. They said, "Do you know anything about animals?" I said, no. They said, "You work on animals." Why? Because they cared less about the animal material. So they assigned me an evolutionary biologist, Bill Drury, to oversee my work. And my first children's book was on the caribou and its antlers, okay? Because part of the study was on the Netsilik Eskimos, who were hunter-gatherers, okay? And I wrote and also illustrated in a crude way. I was taking drawing classes. They were later redrawn by, real artists. But anyway, so by that, that narrow a decision, that happenstance, I'm shifted over into biology. I'd never taken a course in biology in my life at any level. I didn't know nothing about the subject. Never taken a chemistry course either. All right. I go out there and I go to the library and I find a paper on the caribou and its antlers that was based on a brand new group selection species advantage argument. The function of caribou antlers was to regulate population numbers for the good of the species. It kept the species from being too numerous, and it made sure that it recovered from low numbers. And I could bore you with the theory itself, but let's skip it. I came back to him with it, and then he argued with me for about almost an hour that natural selection works at the individual level. It favors the individual who leaves the most surviving offspring, or as the term later became called, reproductive success, whoever has the highest reproductive success, because that means you pass on more of your genes. You have 10 children, I have 0. Your genes are increasing, mine are decreasing. That process repeated over and over again in nature is what's actually molding us. He taught me a single simple logic. Now, I argued against him, so he lends me the book by this guy, the nonsense book, and then he lends me a book that wasn't out yet, which gave the counter-argument to it. And he said, read only the first chapter of this, and then read this little appendix. And for 3 days, I read them one after another. And each time I was reconvinced. I would read the wrong one. I would say, yes, he's right. Bill is missing something important. This works at the species level. This doesn't just work at the individual level. Then I'd read the counter-argument. I'd say, no, that guy is full of you-know-what. It's individual selection. At the end of 3 days, this character's grip on me lessened, and he slid off into the surrounding gloom. And from then on, I was a evolution by individual natural selection person. And that's roughly when I decided, hey, now this might be worth devoting my life to. This system of logic applied to all creatures and all aspects of all creatures. And for certain reasons, I was especially interested in psychological and social phenomena